Hi, welcome to the first episode of Call Saul First, where me and my girlfriend Freya are watching through the Breaking Bad universe, but starting with Better Call Saul. So she doesn't know anything about the rest of the show, and what references this show might be making to Breaking Bad.
So yeah, that is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and seemingly more honesty than this lawyer character that we seem to have gotten ourselves into with Saul Goodman. Seems pretty heckin' shady. I think my initial reactions. There's a show over here in the UK called Hustle,
Yeah,
um, and it's a lot more like I will admit that show is a lot more slick in terms of how things are going and how things kind of got involved, and there's kind of also a lot of different premises. But certainly, a
well, yeah.
lot of a
This is
lot
the
of a
first
lot of that kind
episode,
of
just to keep in mind.
it is. But in terms of that's definitely the show that I've seen that would kind of be the closest to what's kind of happening here. That there's it's a bit longer form, but um, his previous history of kind of scamming and kind of getting back into the business again with the whole Fools episode. As those of you listening to this are probably aware, because obviously spoilers are ahead, we had two people on skateboards trying to scam this lawyer character out of
Yeah. These
money once he's found
episodes
his luck.
are
And
going to be completely spoiler heavy for the episodes we're watching. We just watched the first episode Uno.
hmm
Um so yeah, what do you think? What do you think about the pacing and the stakes of the show?
I can see like I can see certainly the way that everything kind of pieces itself together is it's obviously a first episode is always going to have a lot of exposition, a lot of kind of trying to establish initial characters and plot lines. I quite let's kind of start with like the opening of
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah, the opening
Um,
completely threw you off. You thought it took place in the 50s at first?
well, yeah, that music, the kind of this it's kind of it's that kind of old crooner 40s and 50s stuff, and with the black and white and everything, and then it just kind of suddenly you realize, wait, no, he's doing a job whilst he's older, and kind of
Yeah.
well, lots of really really good cinematography. I think the first shot I really noticed, and is kind of it's a good example of that kind of two perspectives shot where kind of Saul, his older Saul, which is what I can presume from everything going on, is who that character was working in what looked to be a cinnamon bun place of some kind, or maybe an ice cream parlor.
Yeah, I mean he is
With
going by the name
a
Jimmy in
yes,
within
so
the
yeah,
show.
Jimmy is um there working, and then there's a character there that's just kind of walking by and kind of was sat there, and he's the one that's in focus, which
Mhm.
immediately kind of tells you within the cinematography that it's like
He's nervous.
something's up here. Something is going to happen with this character. You don't necessarily know how or when or why. That everything is kind of just coming together
Do you
and
feel
making
like
it.
you're missing out a little bit by having not watched Breaking Bad? And like when it comes to that first scene or anything else in the episode?
Mm, I think there's certainly a lot less to know. I don't. I mean, obviously, those of you at home who have seen both series and possibly watched Better Call Saul after will know what the relevance or significance of the character was, particularly as they kind of walked out, hugged their family. They were kind of, seemingly it was like, oh, this guy's actually a perfectly normal dude, has a family, kind of interacting with things, and was just kind of waiting up. So potentially kind of came across as a bit of paranoia. Um, then we get into the second scene where he's back home in a house,
Mhm.
watches some TV, and then gets what can only be described as, like, at the time we didn't know that it was kind of like within that kind of situation, but it's kind of the first Better Call Saul adverts references on a VHS tape of some kind that he's
Right. So
potentially take.
at
You
some
know,
point, he has called himself Saul Goodman.
yes, indeed.
As to why he does that,
Um,
who knows?
it kind of is almost a little bit of a hint and a spoiler for the next within the next set of scenes, which we'll come to, I guess, in terms of working through it in episode order. See him in the dark, see him kind of be shown up by the prosecution, in terms of the evidence that was there and the evidence he had available to him. I don't know whether or not public prosecutions just have a limit with regards to their defenses and stuff, and kind of you kind of see him as being a little bit incompetent, just kind of defending for defense's sake.
Mm-hmm.
He finds he's short on money, goes kind of around back to his office,
Goes off on
discovers
the
a
sticker
check,
guy.
goes off on the sticker guy. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of a scene. Seems to have a bit of a short temper, and comes across a check for $26,000 and made out to him. And obviously, that gets into the initial drama with the law firm, which I'm still not sure on relation. It could be father, just from the relative potential. Father could be brother, just from the
Right.
relative age difference with stuff
Right.
that's kind
So
of going
either
on.
you're thinking either father or older brother.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. But there is a
Within
relation. They both have the same last name.
yeah, exactly. Hence why it's kind of goes on to why I bring it up. Like the reason he's called Saul Goodman is because th- there's a he relinquishes on the request and realizes that actually, yeah, making a name for himself and trying to create an identity that is separate from the McKillen brand is going to give him more success with stuff, in terms of actually, depending on what that ends up being, of course,
So you think that
with
is
more
why he
public work
changes
and
his name for public work?
potentially, um, uh, at least certainly at first, it kind of it would make sense within the framing of the show, or at least what you knew so far at the time, and it's kind of like, okay, cool. So this is where the soul aspects of things kind of come in.
Okay.
Then
What do you think of his brother? Or yeah, I guess okay, there we go. I've
brother. Okay, cool. So it is his brother.
yes.
Age, yeah. Given his age, it's kind of yeah. It wasn't ancient, but for some reason, brother has illness. Brother has illness to some kind of electromagnetism, some kind of electronics, and there's it's plausible. There are people who have expressed symptoms. I think there's like as a 16-mile zone in the Midwest of the US where like there's no radio communication. Basically to try and keep telescopes and stuff clear for radio. Basically to keep radio telescopes clear when they're trying to observe the universe. But people have flocked there because there's no phone signal. There's not much electronics of any kind of allowed within these kinds of spaces. So I'm kind of suspecting that there's some kind of illness going on relating to that, and then particularly given the time frame and stuff, you're kind of looking this being set mid 80s, early 90s, and the old
Okay.
VHS tape is something he's kept for a while. Um, Particularly with the flip phone and stuff like that. So you're talking 20 to 30 years ago, maybe late 90s, to
Okay.
just kind of get things in.
Any guesses on setting? Where does the show take place?
Uh, I don't know enough about the US to make a stab at that, but I would say somewhere in California or
Okay.
in that kind of west coast, certainly west half of the US, because and I would potentially go as far as saying maybe somewhere like LA or San Francisco. but I
Okay.
haven't seen the trams to confirm or deny which one of those two would be more likely. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
they
it's
d-
an
they
even span
do
between.
they do go over everything, confirming what time period it is,
Yeah,
confirming
just not
which
yet in this
city.
episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'd say like he seems like it would be kind of a nice like Jimmy becomes almost this anti-hero. I can see the beginnings of this kind of anti-hero kind of perspective on stuff,
Mhm.
particularly particularly given how his vices have been set up. Essentially, yeah, he's not a great guy. He's down on his luck. He's doing the scams because he wants to make money, but at the same time, he wants to try and create a law firm with this kind of decent amount of integrity, and we'll see which one wins out. But trying to make sure that the right thing is done. Essentially,
Mhm.
it
So let's talk about slipping Jimmy.
sure slipping Jimmy. I
So
mean,
what did this episode give us on slipping Jimmy?
it gave him his past of being from the Midwest. I want to say maybe I'm not familiar with my U.S. geography, so I was it Idaho that the state was that
He said Cicero.
Illinois, that's the state. Yeah, Cicero, Illinois. So he essentially kind of comes from that, yeah, kind of Midwest, from the Rust Belt, kind of origins potentially kind of being around, that sort of area. Things are very different because yeah, it's significantly colder up there. It's up near the Canadian border, whereas this seems a lot sunnier, which is and West
So
Coast,
what's
which is
he
why
doing here? If that's where he's from.
um brother moved over,
So you think he
created
followed
founded
his brother?
yeah, I think because younger brother, because they're both kind of in the same profession, it would make sense that it would be kind of like, oh, my brother could potentially find a job for me to do, and kind of he's been down on his luck for a while as a result,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. In terms of actually trying to produce
Right, because his brother isn't
whatever.
working right now.
No, brother isn't working because illness, and he is working and now trying to make a name for himself as a lawyer and trying to. I'm wondering if there's some bad blood because it doesn't really go into much deep. If he's just starting out, if he's not quite as established, I almost think he's only been here for a year or so
Okay.
because, well, they wouldn't like the show's created every line in a TV show is deliberate, and they wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that like he's been ill for about a year on sabbatical with a kind of an extended sabbatical stuff that was going on within the boardroom scene.
When
Um,
when Chuck handed him the mail and asked him if he could file that letter and translate it, he mentioned that he's trying to start up his own law firm.
yes, and
So,
that's kind of potentially also recent. And as a result, he's only been in the area for a year or so in terms of trying to start himself up and carry on the business, I guess, essentially. I think Chuck. I like Chuck. Chuck has an integrity to him in that way in terms of actually wanting to survive with whatever is going on,
mm-hmm.
and actually kind of the law firm has a lot of respect for him, like
Mm-hmm.
um and hence the $26,000 and stuff, and quite why they can't make the checks out to Chuck and have things be managed and cashed in. It's kind of you know Saul wants Saul potentially blames the law firm and the stress on stuff, like trying to
You're
put
already
things
calling him
incredibly
Saul.
politely. Yeah, I mean it's it's fairly obvious from the intonation. It's also the fact that it's once you kind of work it out, and given it's called Better Call Saul within the TV title, it's for context on the recording, it's about quarter to 11 for me right now, so it's kind of there's also a sleepy defaultness to it. But yeah, Jimmy is heckin', you know, blames the law firm for whatever reason with regards to the deterioration of health.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's going to be some resentment between Jimmy and Chuck, or Chuck not being around, and some kind of past family history going on within that kind of stuff. You know,
What do you
the
think
typical
of
kind of plot lines.
What do you think of Howard Hamlin?
It seems pretty slick. I don't know enough about him as to whether or not I would trust him or not, but he seems like
He is a professional lawyer, definitely.
yeah, of course, definitely a professional lawyer. I think he has an integrity and a respect for Chuck, but not much respect for Jimmy.
Given that
So
Chuck said that Hamlin wanted him to change the name,
yes,
which is
exactly.
which is not something you would do if you have respect for someone.
No, precisely. And particularly like, which kind of potentially gives an indication of like what did Jimmy do to, like, you know, instead of like it kind of brings into the line of standing on somebody else's coattails that Chuck uses within that scene.
I thought that
Where
line was
they're
actually
discussing.
fairly brilliant when the show first came out.
Yeah,
Because we're talking about a show that is like on its first episode, and being a spin-off of another show.
yeah.
So wouldn't you rather
There's
make
this
your own
kind of a
name?
lot of lot of meta commentary in terms of, and like, without spoiling it. I know it's kind of without spoiling anything to me, but like, one of the things I kind of think is kind of good is that they're actually trying to say, no, we're going to make something completely different but set within the same universe of like, how did this person, how did Jimmy get into a situation where he's set and doing stuff in the Breaking Bad universe, right?
Because you don't fully even know what he does in Breaking Bad.
I don't know what he does in Breaking Bad at all. I know nothing, absolutely nothing. I am
Is he
completely
an antagonist? Is he a protagonist?
I have no idea. Like, genuinely, I have absolutely no idea. About whatever the heck is happening with regards to, like, you know, whatever the heck he does. I only really kind of, I only really know the slightly mimetic things about about Walter White himself with regards to the fact that there's a meth lab and that kind of stuff. But I know nothing about the plot, and I know nothing about any of the other characters,
And
which is why
where
this
Jimmy's
works so
story?
well.
Yeah, you don't know
Yeah.
where Jimmy's story slots in.
No, not at all. Um, I mean, there's
For all you know, he could either be helping,
yeah,
or he could be the one that like tries to bring him down.
yeah. Jimmy has an impulsivity about him. Certainly in terms of the way that would read the character. He's potentially, there's some anxiety involved, which kind of causes the impulsivity, but
Mm-hmm.
essentially, like,
He does
like
go to the two skaters after Chuck tells him about the Hamlin situation with the name.
yes, because he
So
wants he wants to impulsively enact revenge on the clients that he perceives as double crossing him,
yeah, because it was
rather than
about the
giving things,
Kettlemans. It was about the Kettlemans.
because it was about, yeah, it was about the Candleman family and whatever the heck is going on. Like, I don't know whether they're going to be major or minor characters or not, but like,
So why did they not
she
pick him?
she's
Why did they pick the bigger firm?
because they realized that, like, whatever's kind of happening, I think she's calling the shots with him.
Right. You think Betsy Kettleman's calling the shots, not Craig
But
Kettleman.
Betsy is calling the shots, because well, it just go back to the body language within that scene. Even not even talking about anything particularly verbal. Whose hand is on top of whose?
Her hand.
It's Betsy's.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it's like Craig Kettleman has this body language about him of I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, and it's kind of like oh heck, oh heck, oh heck.
Right, he's letting her pretty much do a lot of the
her
talking.
facial expression, her facial expression, along with the body language in terms of being extended, is like I'm gonna sort this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get to the point where everything is, going into a way of speaking, a way of creating something that does
Right.
control.
There's,
It creates a control
there's
essentially.
two last things I want to talk about.
Sure.
Okay, that woman that he met at the bottom of the elevator in the parking garage.
Ah, yes. Past fling.
Yeah, you think so?
It's gotta be. It's gotta be it's gotta be like. I would potentially even go as far as potentially saying they used to be married.
Okay. Okay, so you think they used to be married?
I think it's certainly a potential option. They've certainly got the like. You don't just walk up to somebody, even a colleague. Like
she did seem to be okay with it.
Yeah, perfectly okay with Saul or Jimmy. It's gonna happen. I'm just gonna use the names interchangeably because colloquially we kind of just have the reference. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But to walk down there, to kick a can whilst she's staying calm and collected in a blouse and an A-line skirt.
And then
A-line? No, probably more of him. Yeah.
And then for him to take the cigarette and put it back in her mouth, and for her
yeah. So there's definitely some chemistry between them.
And she went to go clean up the mess afterwards too.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like either it's a situation where there's some she's like there's some tension between them or chemistry or whatever, or they're past that they are really really heckin' close friends with each other, potentially trying to keep things cool between each other because she's seeing how badly Jimmy is messing up, and is kind of just trying to look after his bullshit as well.
And she does seem to be working at Hamlin's law firm as well.
Yes, exactly. And kind of
the only words exchanged between them were "can't you," and then her saying, I can't.
Yeah. Because the other thing it could be is she's also family.
Okay.
She's
think a sister maybe.
She looks. No, I'm saying that yeah, potentially a sister, but maybe even a niece.
Okay.
Some kind of relation in that sort of things, and therefore it's kind of she's kind of they're kind of still dealing with the stress, or maybe she's even thinking about it more about and kind of tying it into the scene. Like she's Chuck's assistant.
Okay.
Is the other.
Now let's go back to the ending. So we had
they get the wrong car.
Yeah, they get the wrong car. They don't get Kettleman's car. They get this other lady's car, who does not speak English.
Yes.
And they follow it. Abandoning Jimmy from the initial plan.
Yeah.
And what happens?
They get abducted.
Right. And a man comes out and points a gun at Jimmy.
Yes.
All right. Any Any thoughts on that, or where that might go?
It it makes it makes a lot of sense. It makes in terms of like maybe the like something happens. Jimmy tries to sweet talk his way out of a situation in terms of like knowing that they perceive and they know that and recognize the whole tripping over scam, same as Jimmy did,
Mm-hmm.
and but they've actually got the force to enforce it outside of like the law or stuff that's kind of going on. Jimmy's down on his luck, finds he has no choice, and then realizes he has a paycheck from some kind of criminal organization going on within, because nobody knocks on the door and sticks a gun out like with regards to whatever is going on,
All
right?
right.
Particularly it's kind of he uses the whole in the name of the law spiel
Yeah.
because he hasn't quite twigged that this isn't Ms. Cattleman,
Yeah.
it's somebody else, which
Mm-hmm.
then causes the unexpected mix-up and sets up episode 2 quite nicely. I'm kind of looking forward to it.
All right. Now let's play a
Um,
little game
yeah,
to kind of cap
okay,
this off.
sure.
What characters are new to this show, and what characters are from Breaking Bad?
Oh no, you're trying to do the Battlestar Galactica, who's a Cylon on me, aren't you?
So, with your own predictions, right?
Yeah, Jimmy obviously is. That's kind of the one that will keep out of the rules with that
Yeah,
kind of
we'll
stuff
we'll
because
keep
it's how
Jimmy out.
things kind of yeah, keep Jimmy out. I would say um some of these might seem a little left of field, but I will provide reasons for them.
Okay.
Um I think the prosecution lawyer is going to be a feature is potentially going to be a feature within Breaking Bad. And the reason I say that is that given the nature of stuff, I could see Jimmy like trying to lend favors from other people in the legal community as a result of whatever he goes on and does within the show.
Right.
Um, and they get to like slowly but surely there's a rapport that happens between both of them as Jimmy takes on more cases throughout throughout Better Call Saul. Use the actual proper show of what you were trying to intend. Um, and then essentially there's a back and forth between them. They find that actually,
Okay.
there's because of the conflict of him trying to be a good lawyer with
Right.
stuff, trying to get more experience.
So prosecutor.
Then yeah, so the prosecutor in that first scene,
Okay.
it was too much of a dynamic between them for it not to be
Okay.
there.
Your next guys?
Um, the two skateboarding kids will be mules potentially. I don't know. Like it could be that they kind of like that they kind of rise in terms of there being a lot of prominence there.
Okay. Okay. So you got the
Maybe
prosecutor and the skateboard kids.
yes, possibly Betsy, but not Craig.
Okay.
She's she's kind of smart with stuff. She seems like she's got her head screwed on. She's trying to get herself out of a situation with stuff that's going on. Um, she like hypothetically, you could see a situation where Craig gets like a huge prison sentence, and she tries to enact kind of revenge on somebody that maybe another character that ends up featuring as a result of the stuff that kind of happened with this embezzlement case that's kind of going on.
Okay. Uh.
And my
And
last
okay. And your last prediction?
and my last prediction is just because the way the character has just been introduced. I think the old lady that doesn't speak English will feature just as a complete wild card. Like,
Okay.
just suddenly there'll be some kind of comedic moment or something that goes on, and then she's involved and she's going to be around or what have you. And yeah,
Okay. So yeah, this is our first episode. We're gonna be doing more.
hmm
And yeah, Just to reiterate, I've seen all of Better Call Saul and all of Breaking Bad and El Camino. And Freya hasn't seen anything except
Any of it.
any except
This
like
first episode.
except memes and whatnot that
Yeah.
come from like both of those shows or the universe. Um. So yeah, we
and
will.
most of those contain Walter White rather than anything from Saul.
Yeah. So we'll be continuing this. We're tentatively calling this Call Saul First.
Yep. And we'll
Unless
try
we
and
think of a better name.
I think it's a decent name. Like we do it, you do yourself a disservice. We could have it as offer it as a slogan in universe or something.
Yeah. It's what those two skateboard kids were supposed to do.
Yeah,
they
pretty
were
much.
supposed to
We're
call.
offering characters the benefit of their hindsight as a result of what's going on with the show.
Anyway, we'll see you next time. When we finish the second episode.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll be in for more exciting times. Freya will get deeper into the universe of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. And I'm sure she'll have tons of predictions, like that guy in the background is definitely from Breaking Bad, right?
Yes, of course. Everybody is a Cylon until proven otherwise.
Everyone's a cameo.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, thank you for watching, and hope you continue, because this is something I've actually been interested in doing, and even potentially seeing before we did it ourselves. The idea of someone watching through the two shows in a movie with watching them in chronological order, or at least watching Better Call Saul first.
Yes, indeed. Which then kind of goes, yeah.
So we'll see if the show handles itself on its own merits. And yeah, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.